Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our ceremony in 5 minutes. In order to preserve the dignity of this solemn ceremony, please ensure that all electronic devices, including those with hourly chimes, are set to silent. The streaming online broadcast is brought to you by the Defense Media Activity. Guests in uniform, this will be a covered ceremony. And we ask that guests and media please remain outside of the designated path along the waterway that is to my left to clear that area for the ceremonial elements that will be passing through from the Remembrance Circle into the Contemplation Circle. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Joint National Park Service United States Navy Pearl Harbor Remembrance Ceremony. My name is David Ono. I'm the co-anchor at ABC 7 Eyewitness News in Los Angeles, and it is my pleasure to serve as today's Master of Ceremonies. The theme of this 83rd anniversary ceremony is Forging Ahead. The attack on Pearl Harbor marked a pivotal moment in history, awakening America to a new reality of hardship and the specter of protracted war. The American people, both on the battlefields and the home front, rose to this challenge with resilience and determination. The adversity faced by those who served not only forged stronger individuals, but also united the nation with a collective resolve. This anniversary is a tribute to their unyielding spirit and the powerful sense of duty that propelled them to face and overcome insurmountable odds. The annual ceremony serves as a moment of reflection and gratitude, but also as a call to action. It is a reminder to build on the solid foundation left by the greatest generation, adapting to new challenges with the same fortitude and commitment. As we honor the past, we forge ahead, ensuring that the lessons of history continue to guide us in creating a future that upholds the values of courage, resilience, and peace. To our honored guests, the World War II veterans, please remain seated, while all other guests please rise as able for the arrival of the official party. The official party for today's ceremony includes Miss Nikki Stratton, sponsor, USS Arizona. Mr. Tom Leatherman, Superintendent, Pearl Harbor National Memorial National Park Service. Navy Region Hawaii, arriving. United States Pacific Fleet, arriving. Side boys post. Guests, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is customary on December 7th that we observe a moment of silence at 7:55 to commemorate the beginning of the attacks on Oahu. At 7:55, you'll hear the sound of the USS Arizona ship's bell rung by Mikhail Fox of the National Park Service to mark the start of our moment of silence. Completing the moment of silence will be F-22 Raptors from the 199th and 19th Fighter Squadrons, known as the Hawaiian Raptors, executing a missing man flyover formation just beyond the USS Arizona Memorial and over Ford Island in honor of those who lost their lives in the defense of our country on December 7th, 1941. Please remain seated as the flyover takes place. The gap in the formation symbolizes our fallen comrades and demonstrates to all that we will always remember their sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please bow your heads as we observe a moment of silence to honor the events that occurred at this moment 83 years ago today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And our thanks to the 199th and the 19th Fighter Squadrons for participating in today's ceremony. Please rise as able for morning colors and the performance of our national anthem and Hawaii state song, Hawaii Pono'i, by the United States Pacific Fleet. Bugler, sound attention. Color Guard, parade the colors. Retire the colors. Guests, please be seated. For over 100 years, Pearl Harbor has served as America's hub for naval activities in the Pacific of the United States Navy, remains steadfast in the commitment to emulate the legacy of service represented by all of those who served here in December 1941. The mission of Commander Naval Surface Group Middle Pacific is to manage the overall war-fighting capability of the surface combatant force home-ported at Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam. Coming into view, you'll see the guided missile destroyer USS Carl Levin, with her crew lining the decks in the customary manning the rails formation. The crew of Carl Levin is proud to partake of the Pearl Harbor Remembrance, and Commanding Officer Brent J. Holloway, a native of Massachusetts, is honored to sail with his crew on this important day in national and naval history. It is customary for ships passing the Arizona Memorial to pay their respects by manning the rails. Today, in addition to rendering honors to the crew of the USS Arizona, still entombed in their watery grave, the Carl M. Levin will also render honors to the Pearl Harbor survivors and World War II veterans who have gathered with us today. This morning, we are honored to have with us Mr. Ira Schaub. On December 7th, 1941, Mr. Schaub was stationed on the USS Dobbin as a tuba player in the ship's band. During the attack, he fed ammunition to machine gunners on his ship. He is now the sole survivor from his band. Mr. Schaub plans to come back to the ceremony every year while he can to represent all those veterans who could not make it. Mr. Schaub will face the USS Arizona Memorial representing all World War II veterans and return the salute to the USS Carl Levin as they pass close aboard. In recognition of the passing on the legacy, Mr. Schaub will be joined in the contemplation circle by Civil Air Patrol Cadet Staff Sergeant Axel Timmer and McKinley High School Junior ROTC Cadet Major Eugene Morris. Mr. Schaub, hand salute. Mr. Schaub, ready to. Carry on. The men and women seated before us at our gathering represent America's greatest generation. No one before them and no one since has been asked to answer the call to serve and sacrifice the way that they did between the years of 1941 and 1945. It is only fitting that we, the generations that followed, honor them for their example of faithful service. We thank you, Mr. Schaub. Following the Carl M. Levin, you will also see another mainstay at Pearl Harbor passing by. The Virginia-class attack submarine, the USS Hawaii, representing the Pacific Submarine Fleet. Submarines have a rich and proud history of service in Hawaii, from their earliest arrival to the islands in the early 20th century, to their vital contributions to victory in World War II. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor decimated the surface fleet, but left the submarine force intact. By war's end, submarines had supported all major fleet operations and made 488 war patrols. Success was costly. 52 submarines with 374 officers and 3,131 enlisted men were lost and are considered to be still on patrol. The legacy of the Pacific Submarine Force established in World War II continues today. Armed with the finest ships in the world and manned by the most professional sailors, the Pacific Submarine Force continues to ensure America's critical access to the world's ocean trade routes, provide credible defense against any hostile maritime forces, and project power from the sea to the shore when needed. America's Submarine Force embodies this year's theme of forging ahead. Several submarines now carry the names of ships sunk or damaged during the fateful event we commemorate today. Three of our nation's newest Virginia-class submarines, the USS Utah, the USS Oklahoma, and the USS Arizona, will soon join the fleet and carry on the tradition of courage and service as the namesakes of the ships and the crews that served so proudly 83 years ago. The USS Hawaii was named to recognize the tremendous support the Navy has enjoyed from the people and state of Hawaii, and in honor of the rich heritage of submarines in the Pacific. The USS Hawaii, also known as War Canoe, is commanded by CDR Daniel Jones. War Canoe recently completed Pearl Harbor Navy Shipyard's first S-9G depot modernization period in July 2024 on time, over 150 days earlier than any other availability of its kind. Quickly following sea trials, the Hawaii Warriors completed an 8,000-plus nautical mile voyage to Stirling, Western Australia, to support the first ever submarine-tended maintenance period alongside USS Emery S. Land in support of AUKUS Pillar 1. War Canoe is proud to represent the state of Hawaii and its Ohana as its namesake ship. On the 83rd anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, the crew of the USS Hawaii is honored to participate in this solemn ceremony, remembering those that fought defending our country. And we would like to thank the crew of the USS Carl Levin and the USS Hawaii, the Hawaii Air National Guard, and the United States Air Force for participating in today's ceremony. In the Hawaiian culture, the religious leader or spiritual advisor is known as a kahu. Today we are pleased to have for our invocation a Hawaiian blessing offered by Kahu Kekoa. Please welcome.
Aku ya Yehova I ka manawa o ko ola ana E ho ole ano ho I au e ke akua A I ko I hau pona o ho pena Aloha e Aloha mai Aloha e Mahalo ke akua me ke aloha pumehana E malama ho o mai kaku he malu mau Mahalo kia kua, on this day of remembrance of 83 years, kia kua, we come to not just honor and remember, but today begin to look forward, and as we forge ahead in the spirit of peace, of unity, of not just our countries, but of the world. E pulikako, will you pray with me, please? E ko mako mako lani piha me kia aloha mahalo yawai no ko launa panamai me mako I kia la. Kia kua, on this beautiful December 7th, may your aloha spirit continue to abide by everything that we do in Hawaii, and specifically here at Pu'uloa, what we know today as Pearl Harbor. Kia kua, entombed here in the USS Arizona. Kia kua, we ask your aloha spirit once again a blessing over all of those who have served our countries well. And so today we ask your aloha spirit as we imua, as we ho'omu, as we move forward, in love, in peace, in joy, in finding huikala and forgiveness and moving ourselves forward as a world. So may this be again a beginning place for all of us. We pule this blessing with much aloha on this December 7th, 2024. Amen no kia kua apau. Amen. 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 Aloha and mahalo.
Thank you, Kahu Kekoa. For over 40 years, the Japan Religious Committee for World Federation has offered a prayer for peace on this occasion, and we are honored to have them once again as part of this ceremony. At this time, we would like to invite Mr. Fumio Shishino to the Contemplation Circle to offer the traditional prayer for peace followed by the English translation by Mayumi Miyahara. Please welcome.
真珠湾攻撃から83年を迎える今日、日米両国間に勃発した不幸な戦争によってお亡くなりになった多くの御霊に対し、謹んで哀悼の誠を捧げます。
This year marks the 83rd year since the attack on Pearl Harbor. We have all come together to pay our respect to those who sacrificed their lives for their country when our country suffered from the tragedies of war.
私たち世界連邦日本宗教委員会は、宗教者、信仰者が宗旨、宗派の垣根を越えて集い、心を一つに世界平和を祈り、その実現のために日々活動をしています。
Our organization, the Japan Religious Committee for the World Federation, and members from various religions and faiths, our mission is to bring world peace.
1982年9月、ニューヨークの聖ヨハネ大聖堂で日米宗教者会議が開催されました。その時以来、私たちはハワイ平和記念使節団を毎年欠かすことなく派遣し、この慰霊式典に参列してまいりました。
In May 1982, we participated in the U.S.-Japan Religion Conference at St. John's Cathedral in New York City. On our way back to Japan, we made a short stop at Pearl Harbor to pray for peace and offer our condolences. Every year since then, we have been welcomed back to pray for peace.
しかしながら、2019年12月より新型コロナウイルス感染症が世界中で猛威を振るい、3年もの長い間、この慰霊式典に参加がかなわない事態に至りました。人類未曾有の被害を出したコロナ禍を乗り越え、平穏な日々がまた訪れるかに思われましたが、いまだ世界は戦争や紛争、貧困、自然災害などさまざまな要因によって罪のない人々が大切な家族や友人を失い、多くの子どもたちが住む場所さえ奪われるといった悲惨な現実に直面しています。私たちは今こそ世界平和の実現に向けてさまざまな困難に力を合わせて立ち向かわなければなりません。
Since December 2019, coronavirus has spread the world, which has made it impossible for us to participate for 3 long years. Though we expected peaceful days would come back again after the pandemic, the world still faces challenges. Many innocent people are losing their families and friends, and many children lost their homes due to those challenges such as the wars, conflict, terrorism, poverty, and national disasters. Now is a time for us to work together to face and overcome the hardships that we face.
一日も早い真の世界平和と全人類の幸福実現のために、各宗教に受け継がれてきた英知を結集し、共存共栄と相互敬愛の精神を持って宗教者信仰者として共に祈りの誠を捧げる時でありましょう。 先人たちのたゆまぬ努力に心から敬意を表し、今こそ人種、宗派の垣根を越え、全人類が心を一つにしてさまざまな問題に取り組んでいくことをここにお誓い申し上げます。2024年12月7日、世界連邦日本宗教委員会会長田中恒樹を代読。
To achieve the true world peace and bring happiness to all humanity, we shall unite the wisdom passed down through various religions. With a spirit of coexistence, mutual prosperity, and respect for one another, let's come together as people of faith and offer our heartfelt prayers. We sincerely respect the effort made by our predecessors, and now is the time for all humankind to come together to solve the problems beyond all races and religions. December 7, 2024, on behalf of Tsunekio Tanaka, Chairman of the Japan Religious Committee for the World Federation.
それでは祈ります。Let us pray for those who sacrifice their lives for peace. Let us pay our deepest respect to the honorable souls. May they rest in peace. Let us pray for true peace in the world. May everyone on earth live in happiness. Let us unite as one family. Let us all live together in love and compassion. May the world be filled with light and honesty. Let us dedicate ourselves to achieving peace. May all God guide us and illuminate our path. 高間のカムロカムロギカムロミシキミタマを咲き生えたまえ。ありがとうございました。Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shishino and Ms. Miyahara. For nearly 2 decades, the National Park Service and the United States Navy have partnered together to conduct this annual National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day commemoration. Here to share an official welcome on behalf of the National Park Service is Mr. Tom Leatherman, Superintendent of the Pearl Harbor National Memorial. Mr. Leatherman has been working for the Department of the Interior for over 35 years, starting as an intern in college in 1989. Before moving to Hawaii, Mr. Leatherman served as superintendent at the 4 National Park Service historic sites in the San Francisco Bay Area, including Port Chicago Naval Magazine National Memorial and Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historical Park. In October of 2021, he arrived on Oahu as the permanent superintendent of the Pearl Harbor National Memorial. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Tom Leatherman.
Well, I do want to start by saying I don't think we could have ordered better weather, right? So we're We're thankful for that. So aloha and good morning. I want to open by acknowledging some of our dignitaries joining us today, including the Governor of Hawaii, the Honorable Josh Green, and his wife Jamie. We have Admiral Kaler, Commander of the United States Pacific Fleet, and his wife Gina, Admiral Stephen Barnett, Commander of Navy Region Hawaii, and his wife Naima, and David Szymanski, our Regional Director for the National Park Service Pacific West Region. I'd also like to recognize the members of the Consular Corps and the Senior Executive Service. And lastly, I'd like to recognize all of the flag and general officers, additional elected and appointed officials, and community leaders. E komo mai. Welcome. It is an honor and a privilege to co-host the annual commemoration event on Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. Even more an honor is getting to be in the presence of these amazing heroes to our country, the World War II veterans, and the Rosies and their families who have joined us today. I am grateful to you for your service and honored to be in your presence. Can we please give them a round of applause? You inspire so many, including myself, and I thank you for all that you have done in service to our country. For the 83rd anniversary of the attack on Oahu here at Pearl Harbor, I continue to be deeply grateful for the opportunity to work with a great set of partners and public in preserving and sharing this special place. Most notably, I want to acknowledge the unwavering support of our two key partners, Pacific Historic Parks and the United States Navy. Without these two partners, we would not be able to provide access to the memorial, support learning and educational programming, and preserve this historic place so that we can truly honor those who served and whose lives were lost 83 years ago. Pacific Historic Parks makes events like this possible, and they do so much more every day to help everyone experience this history through audio tours, virtual reality, education programming, and operating our gift shop. The United States Navy, and specifically the Arizona Detachment, share our mission of stewardship of the memorial. They operate the boats that provide access to the memorial and are unwavering in their support in our shared mission. It is clear to me that the relationship between our organizations is stronger than ever, and I look forward to continue building it even stronger in the years to come. I want to thank them both for their dedication and support. Lastly, I would be remiss if I did not thank and acknowledge the many staff from the National Park Service who work here every day, and some of whom have joined us just for this event, for their dedications and support for this special place. Without them, none of you would be able to visit and pay your respects. This was a tough year here at Pearl Harbor as we reached a milestone we all knew was coming, but had hoped would never arrive. On April 1st this year, we lost the last of the survivors of the crew of the Arizona when Lieutenant Commander Lou Conter passed away at his home in Grass Valley. Lou was 102 when he passed, and I had the fortune of meeting him in person at his 100th birthday, soon after I was selected as the superintendent at Pearl Harbor. Although I did not know Lou well, it didn't take long to recognize his strength and humility and dedication to the history of this place and his time here. He was the consummate advocate of the often quoted phrase, "Remember Pearl Harbor," and had participated in this event through a recorded statement for the last few years when he was not able to join the commemoration in person. To his dying day, he wanted to make sure that we all remembered Pearl Harbor. And we are fortunate to have some of his family with us here today for us to remember him. So what do we do now? How do we move forward? Well, as I'm sure Lou and many of the other survivors would have said, we have to forge ahead and continue to ensure that we continue to remember Pearl Harbor. We need to be even more diligent to make sure that the stories, legacy, and diverse history of Pearl Harbor will be shared at this site and beyond for all time. We must never forget those who came before us and the events that led to this day 83 years ago, so that we learn from our history and hope that something like this will never happen again to anyone. To help us forge ahead here at Pearl Harbor, we're doing all that we can to make sure this place is taken care of and open to the public so that all can come and learn about this history. But it's equally important for you to keep sharing the stories of valor and sacrifice with your friends and family and instilling the sense of respect and inspiration in future generations. I challenge each and every one of you to make sure that those you know are aware of these stories of sacrifice and valor and contributions of those who served here. I ask you, as we forge ahead together, to be part of helping to never forget Pearl Harbor. Only then will we truly honor those who served here 83 years ago. It is my honor to be the superintendent here at Pearl Harbor National Memorial, and in my time, I will do everything I can to make sure we always remember Pearl Harbor. Mahalo.
Thank you, Mr. Leatherman. The National Park Service shares the honor of serving as caretakers of the history of this hallowed ground with the United States Navy. Here to share an official welcome on behalf of the Navy and to introduce our special guest speaker is Rear Admiral Stephen Barnett, Commander, Navy Region, Hawaii.
Aloha. Thank you for being here. To our guests, to our service members, and most importantly, to the veterans sitting here with us, and those who are listening or actually watching online. It is my honor to be with you here today to thank you for your service to this fine nation. Make no mistake about it. We will always be grateful for your example, grateful for your service, and most importantly, grateful for your sacrifices. Often reflect that those who survived World War II will not be with us forever. Those who pass will be in our hearts, and they will always be in our memories. We will continue to pay our respects at the monuments that stand as a testament to their legacy, to their courage, and to their sacrifice. I'd like to thank Tom Leatherman and the National Park Service staff for our continued partnership. It's very important that we continue to do this annually. There is no better setting, as was said earlier, for this ceremony. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the guest speaker. He's a graduate of the University of Colorado at Boulder, has served in our Navy for over 38 years. He's an F-14 Tomcat and an F-18 Super Hornet pilot with almost 4,000 hours and 600 carrier landings. He's a true leader. He has commanded at every level. At sea, he was a commanding officer of the USS Eisenhower. He was a commander of Carrier Strike Group 9. As a flag officer, he served right here on the island as a director for operations at Indo-Pacific Command. Then he went over to become the deputy commander at U.S. Pacific Fleet. He's been the commander of 3rd Fleet in San Diego and also the director for strategy, plans, and policy called the J5 at the Joint Chiefs Staff at the Pentagon. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my boss, the commander of the United States Pacific Fleet, Admiral Kaler.
You know, I feel like he has to say that when he says he's my boss. He gave me all these really nice accolades. You know, it takes a long time because I've been doing this a long time. So aloha, everyone, and what an honor it is to be here this morning, here at Pearl Harbor with the backdrop behind me. Completely honored to join you all on this incredibly important day. Thank you for inviting me, for everyone, to speak here today. And thank you to all our distinguished visitors, as mentioned earlier, friends and families for joining us. Thank you specifically to the Pacific Historic Parks and the National Park Service for hosting us. And Tom, beautiful ceremony, beautiful setup. And so thank you very much. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our Pearl Harbor survivors and World War II veterans for traveling here year after year and connecting us firsthand to the heroic feats that accomplished that day. And I can't help but reflect of the 4 airplanes we just saw, the ship and the submarine, and realizing that those are manned by sailors and airmen that had the opportunity today on this beautiful day to show their respect. And I would tell you, as both a ship captain and as a fighter pilot, there's no higher honor to do that. I'm jealous of them today as they just landed and they are just docking their ships. But what a wonderful honor they had the opportunity to do today to honor you all here in the front row and this historic site. We gather here today to remember the date which lives in infamy. 83 years ago today, on a beautiful morning, just like this one, Pearl Harbor was assaulted and the world changed. Today we have veterans among us who witnessed it with their own eyes, whose memories are seared with the chaos and violence and the devastation of that day. The rest of us must just imagine it. The peace of a brilliant Sunday morning sky turned dark with enemy fighters. Gentle trade winds pierced with gunfire explosions and sirens. Towering battleships and massive buildings erupting in flames. The waters of Pearl Harbor thick with blood and fuel, the air heavy with toxic fumes. The courageous defenders rushing to respond in any way they could. The violence was local. It was all around us, and the fight was on. The survivors here today lived all of that. They will never forget it, and neither must we. The attack on Pearl Harbor was not the end of the story, it was just the beginning. Our World War II veterans fought back with courage, with determination, and they fought with what they had. They started quickly by beating the enemy at Midway a mere 6 months later. From there, they fought their way across the Pacific to Guadalcanal, the Philippine Sea, and to Leyte Gulf. They finished their campaign at Okinawa, then the largest sea-air-land battle in history. Their victory in World War II was not preordained, nor did it happen by accident. It happened because our greatest generation responded to the attack on Pearl Harbor with tenacity. They took the fight to the enemy, executed with their full commitment, and won. With their actions, they set standards for excellence to which we strive to emulate today. That greatest generation is with us now. We are honored to be here with Pearl Harbor survivors, Ira Ike Schaub. And sir, thank you for this wonderful honor and salute that you gave our sailors. He served on USS Dobbin, and we're also here with Kenneth Stevens, who served on USS Whitney. Welcome to our World War II veterans, Wilbur Toda, Al Chatwin, John Gleason, Don Graves, Arthur Shack, and Johnny Shelton. Rosies who supported the war effort have joined us as well. Jean Gibson, Delphine Caput, Erlinda Gallego Sevilla, and Clarice Lafreniere. We are humbled by your presence and eternally grateful for your service and sacrifice. Your accomplishments and your victory continue to inspire us and give us purpose every day. As mentioned, fewer of these heroes join us every year, so we continue to be grateful to all of you. Earlier this year, we mourned the loss of Luke Hunter, as Tom mentioned, the last Arizona survivor. He attended this ceremony in person year after year. For decades, Lou's life mantra was "Don't panic." When the Arizona sank, he came back on a boat to rescue his shipmates. Later in the war, when his plane was shot down over the Pacific, he told his air crew, "Get ready to swim, and if a shark comes up to you, punch it in the nose." He set example of strong and steady action for all of us. We also lost this year Sterling Cale, the last Pearl Harbor survivor that lived in Hawaii, who was beloved and was a longtime volunteer here at the Pearl Harbor Visitor Center. Sterling served in World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. He then worked for the U.S. Agency for International Development. He served his country for 57 years. They and many others are now gone, but they are not forgotten, nor will they ever be. Lou, Sterling, and the shipmates can rest easy knowing that their legacy endures on earth. And we will move heaven and earth, just as they did, to defend our country and our way of life. Today we stand on their shoulders and on the shoulders of other heroes in front of us. From Pearl Harbor, we learned much. We learned to be forever vigilant, to maintain a combat rehearsal mindset at all times. And we train our sailors to that every day. In fact, right now, the Pacific Fleet is in the most operational intensive period we have experienced in years. In 2024, the Abraham Lincoln, the USS Ronald Reagan, and the USS Theodore carrier strike groups all operated in our waters to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific. We deployed 2 amphibious readiness groups, the America and the Boxer, together as a show of strength with our allies and partners. George Washington has now forward deployed to Japan for overseas duty and is ready for action with our partners. As I speak to you today, the carrier USS Carl Vinson and its strike group is transiting the West Pacific, and the Nimitz strike group is preparing to deploy. Our carrier strike groups, our surface ships, our submarines, our air wings, and our numerous other deployed units continue to excel every day far and wide in all domains. And our sailors continue to serve and uphold international law and defend our way of life. From the vastness of Oceania to the contested waters of the South China Sea, the men and women of the U.S. Pacific Fleet continue to do our nation's work every day, projecting capable and credible combat power. Fortunately, our sailors have tremendous support at home. Like our forebears, we have families, loved ones, and whole communities who stand by us, and we beside them. Many of you are in the audience today, and we must always remember to take care of our families and our neighbors because they take care of us, just as they did 83 years ago. We cannot do what we do without you. No sailor succeeds alone, and when our families and loved ones support us and what we do, they too serve and sacrifice our nation. We serve in consequential times. Today, as in our past, our competitors seek to challenge the order, but we meet those challenges and we will prevail. We perform with peerless professionalism to build and demonstrate combat readiness every day. And we maintain the tenacity and integrity for the fight. Anyone who thinks we don't makes a drastic miscalculation. To the greatest generation, I promise you, we will never forget the example you set and the excellence you demonstrated. We will use your example to better ourselves every day, and we will never forget what you did. We will be ready to win at any time. Like our greatest generation, if that fateful day comes, we will not wait for history to write our actions. We'll act to write our history. And with that, I would like to then once again thank our Pearl Harbor survivors, our Rosies, and our World War II veterans. Thank you to our distinguished guests, families, and friends for joining us, and more importantly, the honor of being able to address you today. Thank you and mahalo.
Thank you, Admiral. Now I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Miss Nikki Stratton. Nikki Stratton, a Colorado Springs native, is the youngest granddaughter of Donald G. Stratton, a heroic survivor of the USS Arizona during the attack on Pearl Harbor. She graduated from Washington State University in 2007 with a Bachelor of Education, and she began her professional journey as a college basketball coach at Washington State University and the University of Wyoming before transitioning into the private sector. Currently, she serves as Director of Strategy for a small MarTech company. In 2020, Nikki was deeply honored to be appointed by the Secretary of the Navy as a sponsor of the future USS Arizona SSN 803, a nuclear submarine and the first vessel to bear the Arizona name and a powerful symbol of remembrance for the 1,177 men lost aboard the USS Arizona BB-39. Nikki plays an active role in shaping the legacy SSN 803, ensuring it serves as a living tribute to the courage and dedication of those who sacrificed their lives at Pearl Harbor. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm welcome for Miss Nikki Stratton.
Aloha and good morning, distinguished guests, honored veterans, and families. It is a privilege to stand before you today as a member of the Stratton family, a family whose story is forever entwined with the legacy of Pearl Harbor and the enduring spirit of the USS Arizona. On December 7th, 1941, my grandfather, Donald Stratton, faced unimaginable adversity aboard the Arizona. His survival was a testament to the grit, compassion, and loyalty of those who fought beside him and risked everything to save others. Today, as we look toward the future with the commissioning of the USS Arizona SSN 803, we honor that same determination, the belief that we can do hard things, whether overcoming great tragedy, carrying forward cherished legacies, or embracing the joy of remembrance and progress. These values form the foundation of this submarine's mission and symbolize the indomitable spirit of the men and women who serve our nation. Together, we will ensure that the sacrifices of the past inspire the promise of the future. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a moment of profound tragedy, but also a turning point in history. The days that followed, Americans faced a stark choice: succumb to despair or rise to the challenge. The generation that lived through those days chose to rise up, tackling even the most difficult tasks, rebuilding not only ships and fleets, but most importantly, their faith in humanity and their fortitude to secure a brighter future. For my grandfather, doing the hard things was not abstract. It was a matter of survival. Severely burned with his ship sinking beneath him, he mustered every ounce of strength to pull himself across a rope to safety aboard the USS Vestal. That act, hauling his body hand over hand while flames roared beneath him and planes attacked above, is a testimony to his unbreakable will. After months of recovery, he re-enlisted in the Navy, returning to fight the very enemy that tried to take everything from him. His resilience embodies the essence of doing the hard things, finding strength in moments of weakness, and persevering in the face of overwhelming odds. For survivors like my grandfather, it also meant sharing their stories, not out of bitterness or anger, but to ensure their shipmates' sacrifices were never forgotten. The future USS Arizona SSN 803 will stand as a tribute to this country's triumphant and indestructible spirit. Its construction and mission remind us that the hard things are worth doing because they honor the legacy of those who came before us. Building a modern nuclear-powered submarine requires advanced technology, innovative thinking, and the collaboration of countless individuals dedicated to safeguarding our future. Just as the Pearl Harbor sailors stood firm in the face of overwhelming odds, the future sub and crew now stands as a symbol of determination and progress. If there is one defining trait from December 7th, 1941, it's grit. That resolve to withstand everything when the odds seem insurmountable. The attack decimated the Pacific Fleet, but rather than paralyzing us, it ignited the sleeping giant, mobilizing the entire country virtually overnight. Americans across the nation demonstrated their unshakable resolve. Shipyards worked tirelessly to produce vessels in record time. Pilots trained intensively, and families rationed and sacrificed for the war effort. The grit of that generation is exemplified in the efforts like raising the USS West Virginia, which was repaired and sent back into action, or the USS California, refloated, modernized, and returned to battles to fight at Leyte Gulf. These monumental undertakings symbolize the nation's refusal to surrender, even under the direst of circumstances. For my grandfather, grit became a way of life. Severely burned on over 65% of his body, he faced a choice no 19-year-old should ever have to make: succumb to the flames or fight for survival. Crossing the rope was an act of absolute stubbornness. Despite the pain of burned hands gripping a rough line, he pressed forward, traversing near the length of a basketball court, all driven by the will to live. That singular moment of grit defined not only his survival, but also the legacy he carried for the rest of his life. The future USS Arizona represents the determination to honor the past while forging ahead. It ensures the name USS Arizona is associated not only with loss, but with new resilience, strength, and an unbending will to sustain against all challenges it may come up against. Compassion, though quieter than acts of heroism, were equally vital in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor. Sailors risked their lives to save their brethren and their crew from the flames. Medics worked tirelessly to tend to the wounded. Civilians donated blood, delivered supplies, and provided comfort. Compassion-fueled acts of bravery that saved countless lives. For my family, compassion has always been central to honoring my grandfather's memory. His story is more than bravery or resilience. It's about the relationships he forged and the gratitude he carried for those who cared enough to act. Joseph L. George, the sailor who threw the rope that saved my grandfather and 5 others, embodied that compassion. Joe defied orders to cut the lines to the burning USS Arizona, instead choosing to throw a rope to my grandfather stranded on the platform. Joe could have looked the other way, followed protocol, and prioritized his own safety, but he didn't. His compassion led him to act, and in doing so, he gave those 6 men a chance to live. Decades later, my grandfather and other survivors fought for Joe to receive the recognition for his heroism. And that bond of compassion is part of what keeps the story of Pearl Harbor alive and thriving through 83 years of history. It reminds us that humanity's greatest strength lies in its ability to care for one another, even in the direst of circumstances. The 803 crew embodies this principle. The Navy's mission is rooted in compassion, protecting freedom and lives, even at great risk. Every mission undertaken by this submarine will reflect the belief that safeguarding others is a noble and necessary calling. Loyalty is another lasting quality that connects us to those who came before us. It is the steadfast commitment to one another, to a shared mission, and to the values we hold dear. 83 years ago, loyalty bound sailors to their shipmates and leaders to their crews. For my grandfather, loyalty was woven into the very fabric of his being. Despite his injuries, he re-enlisted in the Navy, not out of obligation, but out of loyalty to his fallen brothers and the ideals that they had fought to defend. The naming of SSN 803 after the USS Arizona reflects this same sense of loyalty. It is a commitment to honoring the legacy of those who served aboard the original ship and the promises that their sacrifices will never be forgotten. Amid the weight of tragedy, joy may seem elusive, but it is vital. Joy gives us strength to persevere, the capacity to celebrate life, and the ability to honor those we've lost by cherishing the world they fought to protect. For my grandfather, joy was not the absence of hardship, but the ability to embrace life despite it. He lived through unimaginable pain after the attack, both physically and emotionally. Yet even as he carried the scars of that day for the rest of his life, he also carried an appreciation for life's simple joys. Whether it was sharing stories with family, enjoying the laughter and antics of his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, or sharing a quiet moment with my grandmother, watching this incredible life they created go by, my grandfather found ways to celebrate the beauty of the world he had fought so hard to preserve. Joy was also present in the bonds he shared with his fellow survivors. Their annual reunions filled with laughter, camaraderie, and heartfelt remembrance were a testament to the enduring connections forged through a shared experience. Even as they honored those who were no longer with them, these gatherings were infused with a sense of gratitude for the lives they had lived, the friendships they had built, and the chance to tell their stories to future generations. The Arizona to come symbolizes this same unwavering sense of joy. While its mission is serious and its purpose rooted in the solemn memory of the USS Arizona, it also represents the celebration of progress and the resilient strength of the human spirit. The commissioning of this submarine will be a joyful occasion, not because it diminishes the tragedy of Pearl Harbor and the USS Arizona battleship, but because it honors that tragedy by showing how far we've come. It will be a moment to celebrate the ingenuity, teamwork, and dedication that made its creation possible, as well as the sailors who will serve aboard her. Finally, joy reminds us to cherish the freedoms and opportunities we enjoy today. Those who fought at Pearl Harbor did so out of love. Love for their families, love for their friends, and the ideals that made life worth living. By finding joy in our lives, we honor their sacrifice and ensure their efforts are not in vain. As we reflect on Pearl Harbor's history, let us remember that joy comes not from ignoring hardship, but from celebrating the triumphs born from it. It is about gratitude for the present and hope for the future. In this hallowed ground, in this sacred place, we are connected by the stories of the past, the challenges of the present, and the promise of the future. Whether through doing the hard things, courage, grit, compassion, loyalty, or joy, the lessons of Pearl Harbor will continue to guide us forward. As we look towards the commissioning of the future USS Arizona SSN 803, let us carry these values with us, not just as a tribute to those who came before us, but as a commitment to those who will come after. Thank you, and may we always remember Pearl Harbor by living lives that honor the sacrifices made. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nikki Stratton. So this morning, we will place wreaths to honor the territory of Hawaii, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, and Coast Guard. The wreaths will be presented by active duty and Guard service members, National Park Service Rangers, and this year, in keeping with the theme of passing on this enduring legacy to our future generations, the wreath presenters will be joined by members of the local McKinley High School Junior ROTC, cadets of the Civil Air Patrol, and the cadets from the Junior ROTC unit of Campbell High School. The wreaths you're about to see presented are an expression of our gratitude and a symbol of our unending appreciation of service and sacrifice. Today, with these wreaths, we honor all the heroes, military and civilian, who lost their lives on December 7th, 1941. This formation, moving from the Remembrance Circle, which preserves the names and memories of each American who lost their lives on December 7th, represents our past and present. It honors those who fought in the name of freedom 83 years ago and recognizes the veterans and current active duty members who continue to serve our country with honor, courage, and commitment. The wreaths will be placed in the contemplation circle as an indelible reminder of the legacy of these service members and civilians, and the hope that every future generation never forgets the many sacrifices that make freedom possible. The bell from the USS Arizona will sound in honor of the sacrifice of each service. We remember the territory of Hawaii. On that fateful morning, we remember the 49 civilians who lost their lives as a result of the attack. As a base for all of the military services, the then territory of Hawaii and its citizens played a major role in one of history's greatest salvage and repair efforts, quickly restoring most of the damaged ships and expediting their return to the fleet. Hawaii's citizens opened their homes and businesses to servicemen stationed in the islands and to those returning from war patrols. Today, the state of Hawaii remains a strategic and welcoming home port for our military, continuing to offer aloha to all. Representing the territory of Hawaii is CSM Brandon Kumale of the Hawaii Air National Guard, Ranger Joe Borgia from the National Park Service, and McKinley High School Junior ROTC Cadet Captain Amara Aro. We remember the United States Army. While many history books tend to focus on the Pearl Harbor attack, the brave members of the United States Army fought diligently to defend their posts on December 7th, 1941. In total, 233 soldiers were killed during the surprise attack. Today, from Schofield Barracks to Bellows Airfield, the U.S. Army stands ready to defend our nation and maintain a steadfast presence on Oahu. Representing the United States Army is Sergeant Richard Rodriguez, Ranger Tito Griffith from the National Park Service, and McKinley High School Junior ROTC Cadet Captain Ryan Kapakungan. We remember the United States Marine Corps. Many may not realize that visiting the USS Arizona Memorial that the United States Marine Detachment made up part of each battleship's crew. A total of 109 Marines lost their lives that day. 105 perished aboard ships in Pearl Harbor, and 4 were killed in action at the Eva mooring mast field. Today, Marines continue the tradition of serving our nation wherever and whenever they are called upon. Their commitment to self-sacrifice and dedication provide a cornerstone for our nation's defense in the challenges of the 21st century. Representing the United States Marine Corps is Sergeant Alan Reyes, Ranger Phil Legenfelter from the National Park Service, and Campbell High School Junior ROTC Cadet Lieutenant Robert Kabating. We remember the United States Navy. (1,999) sailors lost their lives in the December 7th attacks on Pearl Harbor and Naval Air Station Kaneohe Bay. Many sailors met their final resting place in the waters directly behind me while defending their ships and helping their shipmates escape the burning waters. Many more assisted in rescue and recovery efforts in the days and weeks that followed. The sailors of today's Navy continue to serve with honor, courage, and commitment to protect our nation's interests at sea. Alongside America's allies and partners, they stand ready to provide maritime defense, preserve economic prosperity, and keep the seas open and free. Representing the United States Navy is BM2 Jesse Moore, Ranger Daniel Dapais from the National Park Service, and Campbell High School Junior ROTC Cadet Lieutenant Commander Juliette Castone. We remember the United States Air Force. Though not yet in service in 1941, the United States Air Force was formerly referred to as the Army Air Forces, and here on Oahu as the Hawaiian Air Force. On December 7th, Lieutenants Ken Taylor and George Welch scrambled to their aircraft parked at Haleiwa Field and took off to brave the skies against incredible odds. Today, airmen serving the United States Air Force in Hawaii continue the legacy of the defense of America's vital airspace interests and around the globe. Representing the United States Air Force is A1C Sloan Campbell, Ranger Susie Schmalbeck from the National Park Service, and Civil Air Patrol Cadet Captain Adam Etlich. We remember the United States Space Force. America's newest military branch, the United States Space Force carries the proud legacy of the Army Air Forces as guardians of America's interests around the globe. They represent the latest example of carrying on the legacy of the generations of Americans we honor today. The Space Force Guardians in the Indo-Pacific stand vigilant to safeguard American assets in orbit from physical and digital attack in the ever-changing challenges of the 21st century. Representing the United States Space Force is Specialist 3 Holly Morang, Ranger Dustin Furlong from the National Park Service, and Civil Air Patrol Cadet Tech Sergeant Lillian Burrell. We remember the United States Coast Guard. At the time of the attack, U.S. Coast Guard vessels in Hawaii were all stationed in Honolulu. At 6:45, the patrol craft Tiger intercepted a dispatch from USS Ward that claimed destruction of a submarine. Later, Tiger itself came under enemy fire as it participated in the defense of Oahu. The United States Coast Guard continues to serve as America's frontline agency for enforcing the nation's laws at sea, protecting the marine environment, and providing life-saving sacrifices. Representing the United States Coast Guard is AET-3 Jacob Keller, Ranger Joseph Wool for the National Park Service, and Campbell High School Junior ROTC Cadet Ensign Hayden Umayam. At this time, the wreath presenters representing today's generation of veterans will salute the greatest generation for their service and their legacy. Would all Pearl Harbor survivors and all of our World War II veterans please remain seated so that we and all who are present here today can honor you. We acknowledge that on December 7, 1941, and in the years that followed, you executed your duties at your posts and weathered the storm of war. It is because of you and all those who served 83 years ago that we enjoy freedom and liberty in this great country today. Will everyone else please stand and join me in expressing our appreciation? A grateful nation applauds you today. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the benediction and the Marine Corps Rifle Salute. At the conclusion of the rifle salute, a bugler for the United States Pacific Fleet Band will blow taps from the contemplation circle, symbolizing our commitment to always remember the lives lost on that day and to carry on their legacy of hope in the defense of freedom and lasting peace. Captain Gary Thornton, Navy Region Hawaii Chaplain, will now offer the benediction. Please welcome.
Aloha and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in this prayer of benediction. Let us pray. Keakua, God of our fathers, Creator God, as we stand on these hallowed grounds, Pu'uloa, as we look upon this national shrine, we guard in our hearts the sacred memory of those who gave their lives here so long ago. Bless us, O Lord, as we humble ourselves in thy presence, paying tribute to our shipmates and other service members, those from what many have called the greatest generation, who so valiantly served our country, many of whom rest here today in honored glory, ever on patrol. Amidst the peace and tranquility of this place, we pledge to remember their heroism on the 7th of December, 1941. We will never forget the courageous exploits and the incredible legacy of those who made the supreme sacrifice who paid the ultimate price along with those who survived, was not in vain. At a moment's notice, they, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and yes, Coast Guardsmen, defended America's freedom. Those who died paid the ultimate price, demonstrated and upheld America's fighting spirit. Immortal One, we give you thanks today for those brave souls. Almighty God, you declared that no greater love hath any man than to lay down his life for friends. May we each and every one be willing to follow their example when duty calls. May we embrace and embody that same warrior ethos, all the while praying for the day when our enemies become our friends, when our swords shall be beaten into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks. A day when nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn or wage war anymore. Eternal Father, until that glorious day, and as we prepare to depart this place and forge on, we ask that you would bless us and keep us, that you would make your face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us, that you would lift up your countenance upon us and grant us your peace. This we ask in your most holy, mighty, matchless, and wonderful name. Amen.
Captain Thornton, thank you so much. Stand by for rifle salute. Side boys post. On behalf of the National Park Service of the United States Navy, thank you for attending today's observance of the 83rd anniversary of the attack on Oahu, and for continuing to remember and honor the sacrifices made by those who served here December 7th, 1941. To those who are watching our ceremony through our online broadcast, we also extend our sincere aloha. Thank you to the Defense Media Activity providing the live stream. This ceremony would not have been possible today without the critical assistance of Pacific Historic Parks. Please remain standing for the departure of the official party. United States Pacific Fleet departing. Navy Region Hawaii departing. Mr. Tom Leatherman, Superintendent, Pearl Harbor National Memorial, National Park Service, departing. Miss Nikki Stratton, sponsor, USS Arizona, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Please take a moment to meet our veterans in attendance and offer a personal expression of gratitude for their service, their sacrifice, and for giving us the opportunity to honor them here today. Please enjoy the patriotic music performed by the United States Pacific Fleet Band as you depart. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Mahalo, aloha.